Hace su entrada el director de la Fundación BBVA, Rafael Pardo. A continuación, la presidencia del acto, integrada por don Carlos Torres Vila, presidente de la Fundación BBVA y del Grupo BBVA, y la profesora Rosa Menéndez, presidenta del Consejo Superior de Investigaciones Científicas. Tenemos el honor de contar con la presidencia del Lehendakari del Gobierno vasco, el excelentísimo señor don Íñigo Urkullu. En las primeras 10 ediciones de estos galardones, más de un centenar de investigadores e instituciones han sido reconocidos por contribuciones fundamentales que han desplazado las fronteras de sus respectivos campos. Hoy se suman a la familia de los premios Fronteras del Conocimiento los galardonados de la 11ª edición. Premio en la categoría de Ciencias Básicas, profesores Charles Kane y Eugene Milley de la Universidad de Pensilvania. Premio en Biología y Biomedicina.
And the award for biology and biomedicine is going to Professor Jeffrey Gordon from the University of Washington in St. Louis.
Premio en Tecnologías de la Información y la
And the award
Comunicación.
for Information and Communication
Dr.
Technologies
is de la
for
Universidad
Dr.
Estatal de Portland.
Ivan Sutherland from the State University of Portland. It goes to Gretchen Cara Daly from Stanford University and Georgina Mace from University College London.
Premio en Cambio Climático. Doctora Annie Kassenev del Centro Nacional de Estudios Espaciales y profesores John Church de la Universidad de Nueva Gales del Sur y Jonathan Gregory de la Universidad de Reading.
That's him, Gregory, okay. Reddering, who's from Reading. No, he's going to speak, Gregory. Yeah, we have. Yeah. He speaks fast, but he's really clear. Yeah, you should have them in both.
Premio en Economía, Finanzas y Gestión de Empresas. Profesora Claudia Goldin, Universidad de Harvard.
Don't know about her.
Premio en Música y Ópera.
The award for music and opera
John Adams.
goes to Maestro John Adams.
Please, you can take your seats. Desde esta 11ª edición,
From now onwards,
Bilbao se convierte
Bilbao
en sede
will become
permanente de
the
los premios
permanent headquarters
Fronteras del
of
Conocimiento.
the Frontiers of Knowledge
en la que el grupo
Awards.
BBVA
It's a city
tiene sus raíces
where
vivas
the BBVA
y que, al
group
igual que el
has its
conjunto del País
roots,
Vasco,
and
representa
just like the rest of the
ejemplarmente
Basque
la
Country,
apertura
is an
de la
exemplary
ciudadanía y sus
representation
instituciones
of
a
the
la sociedad
openness
global
of
y la
citizenship
ampliación de las
and
oportunidades
of
para
the
todos
institutions of this
a
area
través
to
del
global
conocimiento,
society
la
and to the
innovación,
broadening of opportunities
el
for all
espíritu
through
emprendedor
knowledge,
y la
innovation,
cultura.
entrepreneurial spirit and culture.
Invito al alcalde de Bilbao, a don
I
Juan
should
María
like
Aburto,
to
a
ask
pronunciar
Mr.
unas
Juan
palabras de
María Aburto,
bienvenida.
the Mayor of Bilbao, to come up to the stage to say a few words of welcome.
Lehendakari jauna, presidenta del CSIC,
Chairman of the CSIC, I'm afraid that he's his Secretary for Science, Technology,
resto de autoridades,
and dear
good
authorities.
evening, arratsaldeon, buenas tardes,
Good
a
evening,
todas y a todos.
everybody.
After the ceremony held yesterday at the City Hall, we meet again, this time at this Euskalduna Palace, which has witnessed Bilbao's spectacular transformation over the past 30 years. In a way, we are at ground zero of the new Bilbao. When we were young, a lot of years ago, this place where Euskalduna Palace now stands was occupied by important shipyards, which carried Bilbao's name all around the world. Bilbao was then a dark, grey, heavily polluted post-industrial city and had hit rock bottom from an economic, social, and environmental perspective. It was then that we began to write the new pages of the future of Bilbao, which have allowed us to build a new metropolitan reality, which is balanced, sustainable, and vibrant, winner of the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize in 2010, and listed as the best European city in 2018. Bilbao is a city proud of its past, a city that has been able to reinvent itself and that works with determination and enthusiasm towards the future in terms of innovation, talent, sustainability, social justice, and human development in the broadest sense of the word. But today, you are the focus of this award ceremony for the BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Awards. For the first time in our 719 years of history as a city, Bilbao dresses up to meet and honor some of the brightest minds in the world, winners of the BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Awards. Eskerrik asko. Thank you for coming to Bilbao. Thank you very much for contributing to making our city's name synonymous with science, knowledge, and excellence. And thanks to the BBVA Foundation for bringing these Frontiers of Knowledge Awards to Bilbao and to stay here for the next years as well. Agradezco de nuevo a la Fundación BBVA.
Once again, I would like to thank the Fundación BBVA for having held this edition and future editions of the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards. And as I said yesterday, dear President, dear Carlos, you know that Bilbao is and will always be your home. And as you know, we are delighted for you always to come back whenever you want. And I think that this represents a recognition of the major collective effort that has been made by this city over the last 30 years to reinvent itself and to construct a completely new metropolitan reality that is vibrant on the former industrial ruins of that Bilbao, that dirty Bilbao. And I would say that throughout our entire history in Bilbao, we believe that it's necessary to make a big effort so that people can be placed at the epicenter of what's going on in terms of economic activity, so that in this world that is becoming more and more urban, cities can become the lever for change so that we can move on to a new concept of development that favors, above all, the development of our skills as human beings. But today, or tonight, it's you, the 12 award winners here, the winners of the Frontier of Knowledge Awards. You are the protagonists of this extremely important event for Bilbao, because for the first time in our 719 years of history, this city has become the epicenter of science and knowledge at an international scale. We have physics and linguistics, medicine, language, information technologies, biologies, the struggle against climate change, and all of you represent the very best in terms of human thought, and you are a reference for the current and future generations. We feel very proud and we feel very honored to have you here with us tonight. And in our very ancient Basque language, we have a phrase that I think summarizes the progress made by human knowledge that you represent here, which means basically that even what is impossible can become a reality if we really give it a try. It's now in Basque.
Eta ezagutzaren mugan egiten duzuen lan miresgarria kontutan hartuz, zuek zarete gizaki guztiontzat amesten dugun etorkizuneko mundu hobe horren hasi intelektualak. Guretzat, ohore eta atsegin handia da zuei esker Bilbo gaur nazioarteko ezagutzaren hiriburu bihurtzea. Nork imagina zezakeen gaztetan ezagutu genuen Bilbo zikin eta ilun hartan, munduko jakintza itsasadarraren ondoko txoko honetan.
What the mayor is saying is very similar to what he said before, both in English and Spanish.
Eta mila esker BBVA fundazioari ezagutzaren mugak sariak Bilbora ekartzeagatik eta berrikuntza tradizio duen hiri hau munduko jakinduria zientifikoaren abangoardiarekin lotzeagatik. Bihotz-bihotzez eskerrik asko.
Eskerrik asko, muchas gracias.
Many thanks, Mr. Mayor. As you may have seen in the images that have been projected, these Frontiers of Knowledge Awards have 8 categories that reflect the knowledge map of the 21st century. During this ceremony and in the leaflets that you've been given, you'll see an image of a spiral in which the lines of the spiral are interwoven. That reflects how the different knowledge areas and cultural areas crisscross each other. It's the symbol of the Frontiers of Knowledge which all the award winners will be receiving. And the author, the artist that designed that, Blanca Muñoz, is here with us tonight. The idea is to pay tribute and to make public and visible all the scientific and artistic community through these awards, because without your daily work, it wouldn't be possible for there to be the progress that we can recognize today to be made. The 119 winners of the 11 years that these awards have existed have carried out exceptional contributions in their respective fields. The nominations that we receive every year, between 40 and 60 per category, come from the main universities, research centres and cultural institutions around the world. These nominations are pre-assessed by expert committees from the National Research Council, known here in Spain as the CSIC, which is our main multidisciplinary research public institution. And the BBVA Foundation would like to say publicly how grateful we are to the CSIC, because ever since the beginning of these awards has been very generous in its collaboration and in preparing the committees of experts. So I'd like to now invite the President of the CSIC, Professor Rosa Menendez, to say a few words on behalf of this institution. Mr. Lendakari of the Basque government, Mr. President of the BBVA Foundation, Mr. Mayor of Bilbao, authorities, members of the expert committees, award winners, dear friends, colleagues. This evening, we are celebrating in the beautiful city of Bilbao the awards that we're giving tonight, which are the BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award. This is the 11th time this has happened. Hardly without realizing it, we're coming to the end of this second decade of the 21st century. And this is an appropriate time to be asking ourselves, what sort of a message do we want or can we get across to our society about the role of science in this, the 21st century? The National Research Council, the CSIC, that we believe that it's actually the time to go a little bit further than the typical message that we try to get across. We shouldn't just repeat that science drives forward technological progress and that has, of course, an impact in our society. No, in addition to that, we need to get across the message that 21st century science is actually warning us that we are jeopardizing our planet, but that it's also precisely there in science where, if we work hard, we can really actively design solutions for a sustainable future. And these solutions shouldn't be limited to just specific problems. No, they should be broached from this idea of a society that is evolving, a society that's going through global change and that seeks a better and more sustainable future. Because we're talking here about complex problems that require, once again, the multidisciplinary collaboration and which will also push forward the boundaries of our knowledge. And the awards this year are an example of our commitment. Here we're going to see the proof of climate change reflected in the way the level of the sea is reacting globally and regionally, the need to protect biodiversity, the importance of our microbiota, and the need to claim the role that women play in society. Maybe the greatest challenge for society today, and which science should also do something about, is perhaps this idea of looking more closely at how we understand ourselves globally. We need to maintain our cultural identity, but we should also value everything that makes us truly human, which is creativity, and our ability to communicate that creativity. And so then we start asking ourselves, how are we going to do that without also relying on those people who should be taking part actively in the design of our future? We need to be engaged, and I know this is a word with a great deal of meaning behind it, but we need to get our youth engaged in the future of the society and get them engaged through science. What that means, on the one hand, is a greater effort in education, in the science, the dissemination of science, and of course, more especially, in the necessary resources so that new generations do get on board and seek the solutions of the challenges that lie ahead of us. If I say that this commitment needs to be a fundamental part of this agreement for science, which is being promoted in our country, I would by no means be wrong, especially in this area where for the first time this event is being held in the Basque Country. BBVA Foundation is well aware of this challenge, as can be seen in all its activities, and more specifically in these awards, where the Foundation recognizes and supports the increasingly important role and determinant role of science. That's why I should like to conclude by saying congratulations and thank you. Thank you to the President of the Foundation and its Director for your support. And I should like to reassert our commitment from the National Research Council to carry on collaborating and to carry on driving forward this message in our society. And of course, I should once again like to congratulate the award winners this evening. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you so much.
Los premios Fronteras del Conocimiento son un referente a escala global y el prestigio alcanzado desde la primera edición ha contribuido de manera decisiva la objetividad y el compromiso con la excelencia por parte de los jurados, expertos de primer nivel en sus respectivos campos, que operan con absoluta independencia. Hoy nos acompaña en este escenario una amplia representación de sus integrantes
with us on
para
the
los que les
stage,
pido un aplauso.
with us broad representation of them, and I should like you to applaud them, give them a warm hand.
Antes de que la presidencia proceda a la entrega de los galardones, vamos a proyectar un vídeo de los premiados en sus respectivos
entornos de trabajo. Let's just see a little video of what the award winners look like when they're at their work.
Don Carlos Torres Vila,
Mr.
presidente de la
Carlos Torres Vila,
Fundación BBVA
President
y
of the
del Grupo
BBVA
BBVA,
Foundation and of the
y la
BBVA
profesora
Group,
Rosa Menéndez,
as well as
presidenta del
Professor Rosa
copresiden
Menéndez, the
esta
President
ceremonia
of the
y van a
FESIC, are
proceder
going to
a la
co-chair
entrega de los
this
premios.
ceremony and will now begin
El
with
jurado de la
the
categoría
awards.
de ciencias básicas,
And in the
presidido por
category
el
of
profesor
basic
Theodor
science,
Hans,
the
ha
Committee
acordado
of
conceder el premio
Experts
a los
has
profesores
agreed to
Charles
give
Kane
this
y
award to
Eugene
Professors
Melly
Charles
por
Kane
descubrir
and
los
Eugene Melly
aislantes
for their
topológicos,
discovery of
una nueva clase de
topological
materiales
insulators,
con
a new
propiedades
class of materials with
extraordinarias
extraordinary
que se
electronic
comportan como
properties that
conductores en su
behave as
superficie y como
conductors on
aislantes
their
en su
surface
interior.
but
Los
insulators
aislantes
in their
topológicos pueden
interior.
impulsar el desarrollo
These
de
can
dispositivos electrónicos más
spearhead
eficientes
the
y
development
de
of more
ordenadores
efficient electronic devices and of quantic computers.
En nombre de los dos galardonados,
And on
lee
behalf
el discurso de
of
aceptación
both
del
laureates,
profesor Kane.
Professor Kane will read a speech of acceptance.
Members of the Presidency, authorities, distinguished guests, it is my great honor to accept the BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in the Basic Sciences category. I'm proud to share this honor with my colleague, Jean Melly. Jean hired me at the University of Pennsylvania 28 years ago and has been my mentor, my collaborator, and my friend for all of those years. When I started out in science, I had no idea things would turn out this way. What drove me was an intense curiosity about the physical world. I'd like to thank the University of Pennsylvania for providing an environment where I could exercise that curiosity and do what I love the most, teach and learn. And I'd like to thank the BBVA Foundation for celebrating the pursuit of knowledge. We are being recognized for our theoretical work identifying a new class of materials called topological insulators. On the one hand, these are real materials that you can hold in your hand and study in the laboratory. They have unique electronic properties that may be useful. On the other hand, the way we understand these materials rests on deeply elegant mathematical logic that reveals a powerful organizing principle for characterizing the phases of matter. This combination, real-world application, along with theoretical depth and beauty, is what to me makes the best of theoretical physics. When we were in the middle of this, I remember telling my wife, Suzanne, that I felt like I was unwrapping a present. That is something to be grateful for. We had some inspiration and some persistence, but we also benefited from good fortune as well as the contributions of others. I'd like to acknowledge several scientists, both theorists and experimentalists, that made crucial breakthroughs that helped make topological insulators come to life. Without their work, the field would not have developed the way it did. Finally, I'd like to thank my family, Suzanne, Alex, and Sally, along with my sister Anne. All of this would not mean so much to me if I did not have you to share this with. Thank you.
The Committee for Biology and Biomedicine, chaired by Professor Angelika Schnieke, has agreed to award the prize in this category to Professor Jeffrey Gordon for discovering the importance of gut microbial community for the human health. Thanks to his work, now we know that the microorganisms in our gut are key for developing treatments against obesity, diabetes, or intestinal inflammatory disease.
Members of the Presidency and juries, co-laureates and distinguished guests, I and my tens of trillions of microbes accept this wonderful award with deepest appreciation on behalf of the magnificent group of individuals I've been so fortunate to have worked with and learned from over the years. First and foremost, I would like to thank my wife, Deborah. We met when we were students together at Oberlin College. She and our 2 children, and now grandchildren, have transformed my life in more ways than I can possibly describe. I'm so grateful to the remarkable group of students and postdoctoral fellows and collaborators who have shared their lives with me. There's an African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. They have had a wonderful sense of community, a belief that discoveries are born in caring, supportive, respectful, trusting, curiosity-motivated, interdisciplinary environments where people can share their ideas freely and at the same time not be afraid to say, I don't understand. When I was young, I was captivated by Paul de Crève's book, The Microbe Hunters. Our relationship with microbes was portrayed in warlike rather than in mutually beneficial terms, and their roles were explained in a singular rather than a community context. Later, I came to understand mutually beneficial was the common form of this relationship. When I was young, I dreamed of going to Mars. When I was older, I didn't have to travel far to encounter new life forms. A trip a few meters inside was sufficient to see a captivating world of trillions of microbes, a terra incognita. Current human microbiome research is addressing questions originally posed by microbiologists more than a century ago, but is doing so with new sets of tools. Being able to see ourselves as a splendid collection of interacting human and microbial parts teaches us that we do not travel through life alone, unaccompanied, that there is a microbial dimension to our genetic, physiologic, metabolic, immunologic, and neurobiological features. Many of these insights have been gleaned by first transplanting microbial communities from healthy and diseased humans into animals raised under sterile conditions. Establishing a causal relationship between our microbial communities and health status is the starting point for dissecting the mechanisms by which they operate and communicate with us, as we are doing in the cases of childhood malnutrition and obesity. The task is daunting given the complexity and variable nature of our microbiomes. Nonetheless, these studies are yielding new understanding of the underpinnings of health, the origins of various diseases, and new therapeutic concepts. Our lifestyles are changing at a breathtaking pace, including what and how we eat, accompanied by dramatic alterations in our microbial ecology. There is much to consider in this defining century for humanity, but add this to the list. How can we be better stewards of our microbial resources now and for subsequent generations? The public is captivated. As such, there is a need for those participating in this field to describe their findings clearly in a sober fashion, to approach bench-to-bedside translation carefully and mindfully, and to support a proactive societal dialogue about the implications of this research. I feel young, although I'm older now. It is because all of the knowledge being gained in this area makes it possible to begin to do what we and others have always dreamed of doing. The best part of the journey is now and will be tomorrow.
El jurado de la categoría
The
de
committee of the
tecnologías de la
category in
información y
information and communication
comunicación,
technologies,
presidido por el profesor
chaired
Jos
by
van der
Professor
Walle,
Jos
ha
van der
acordado
Walle,
conceder el
has
premio
agreed to
al
give this
doctor
award to
Ivan
Dr.
Sutherland
Ivan
por sentar
Sutherland
las bases
for
de
laying the
una
foundations for
hombre-máquina
intuitive
intuitiva y
and
potente
powerful
al liderar de forma
human-computer
pionera
interaction,
la transición
and for
a una
leading
relación con los
the
ordenadores
transition from
basada en los
text-based
gráficos.
to graphical computer
Sutherland,
displays.
creador de la primera
Mr.
interfaz
Sutherland
gráfica y
created
del
the
primer
first
casco de
graphic
realidad
interface,
virtual,
the first
ha
virtual reality
transformado la
helmet,
interacción de
and
las
has
personas
transformed the
con los
interaction
dispositivos
of
tecnológicos.
people with technological devices.
I am honored tonight to join this year's recipients of the Frontiers of Knowledge Award. I thank the BBVA Foundation for its selection and its selection committee for including me. Those who extend the frontiers of knowledge do so, as I did, not for recognition, but for the thrill of going where no one has gone before. Thrill 1. In 1960, at age 22, I started a summer job at the MIT Lincoln Laboratory, home of the unique TX2, then the most powerful computer in the world. Lincoln Laboratory had built TX2 to explore how transistors could improve the reliability of computers. TX2's designer was Wesley Clark. He believed in the personal use of computers, and his idea of personal computers was radical in 1960, when only governments and large companies could possibly afford a computer. But Wes correctly foresaw that the cost of computers would soon drop enough for everybody to have one. A younger and rather thinner me timidly asked Wes if I might use his TX2 to make engineering drawings. He agreed, and he gave me hours and hours of personal use of that giant machine. We have seen some half-century-old movies of me using Sketchpad to draw on the TX2. Many years later, Wes told me that he had built TX2 precisely for me, even though he didn't know who I would be at the time. In retrospect, I have realized that I was exactly the eager young student he had hoped would demonstrate the personal use of his giant machine. For me, it was a thrilling adventure. Thrill 2. Bell Helicopter Company had built a closed-circuit TV system to help their pilots land helicopters at night. Through 2 helmet-mounted CRTs, the pilots saw the image from an infrared camera mounted beneath the helicopter. And when the pilot turned his head, the camera also turned so the pilot could look in any direction that he wished. Well, I witnessed this head-mounted display in 1965. I saw that we could replace the camera with a computer. My research group at Harvard built a special-purpose perspective display computer fast enough to allow a user the thrill of wandering through an artificial mathematical world seen through the very same head-mounted display. Thus was born virtual reality.
El jurado de la categoría de Ecología y Biología de la Conservación, presidido por la profesora Emily Bernhardt, ha acordado conceder el premio a las profesoras Gretchen Cara-Daly y Georgina Mays por documentar la alarmante pérdida de biodiversidad global en la sexta gran extinción que afecta a nuestro planeta y por desarrollar herramientas que vinculan la ciencia de la ecología con la toma de decisiones sobre conservación.
Ecology with the decisions made on conservation.
En nombre de las dos galardonadas, lee el discurso de aceptación la profesora Mays.
On behalf of them both, it'll be Professor Mace who will read the acceptance speech.
Members of the Presidency, the BBVA Foundation, selection committee members, fellow awardees, distinguished guests, and laureates. It's a great honour and a privilege to accept this BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in the area of conservation biology on behalf of myself and my co-laureate, Professor Gretchen Daly. It's wonderful to accept this award with Professor Daly. Her work has been an inspiration to me over much of my career, and while we've never been close collaborators, our work is complementary, and it feels very natural to share this award with her. We thank the BBVA Foundation for the award. It's wonderful to see a scheme like this that rewards fundamental research across such a wide range of arts and science disciplines. The significance of the awards is enhanced by this breadth, but is also underpinned by this delightful ceremony, by the rigor of the selection process, and the esteem of the selection juries. Most of all, we are honoured to join the outstanding ecologists and conservation biologists who precede us in winning this award. Ecology is a fundamental science, and conservation biology is an applied discipline that has even been called a crisis discipline. Gretchen and I work at the interface of these two areas, using basic ecological science in practical conservation. We both sense an upturn in public and corporate attention to the state of the environment, and specifically to the values of nature and the risks and devastating costs of its loss. It has been inspiring to see the engagement by young people, local communities, cities, and business and industry at a time when many national governments seem to be focused elsewhere. The challenges are enormous, but science has a huge role to play in supporting these leaders, driving the values of nature into policy and finance, and opening achievable pathways to sustainable development. Our work would be nothing without our networks of colleagues and collaborators, and we thank all of them sincerely. We're proud to see our contributions starting to make a difference. Many thanks again to the BBVA Foundation, and many congratulations to our colleagues and co-laureates here today. Eskerrik asko.
El jurado de la categoría de cambio climático, presidido por el profesor
in the category of a climate change,
chaired by Professor Bjorn Stevens, has agreed to give this award to Dr. Annie Kazanev and to Professors John Church and Jonathan Gregory for describing the response of the sea level to climate change. Their research shows that the sea level is increasing globally, and they quantify the impact of the causes of this increase, which are mainly the expansion of the ocean and the melting of ice sheets and glaciers driven by anthropogenic and global warming.
¿Cómo lo hago?
En nombre de los tres galardonados, lee el
And
discurso
on
de
behalf
aceptación
of all three
el
of them,
profesor
the
Church.
acceptance speech will be read by Professor Church.
Members of the Presidency, the BBVA Foundation, selection committee members, fellow awardees, distinguished guests, and previous laureates. We three are honoured to be sharing this prize, having worked together on scientific projects, publications, and assessments of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Just to be listed on the same page as other laureates from this year and also previous years is a huge honour. We are grateful to the BBVA Foundation for establishing the Climate Change Award and we thank the members of the Selection Committee, our employers in France, the UK and Australia, and our colleagues, friends, and of course families. We are very pleased that through this award, the BBVA Foundation has recognised the importance of the issue of sea level for society and for science. Sea level rise will impact the lives of tens to hundreds of millions of people this century, displacing many people around the world and costing billions of dollars. It will continue for many centuries. Sea level change is a very multidisciplinary science which modern observing systems and climate models have revolutionised. We have contributed to improving estimates of sea level change since the 19th century, especially using satellite altimeters since 1993, allowing us to detect an acceleration in the rate of rise. We have accounted for past sea level change in terms of ocean thermal expansion, the loss of mass from glaciers and ice sheets, and the change in water storage on land. We have refined the capacity to simulate both global and also regional sea level change and attributed the majority of the rise since 1970 to anthropogenic warming and the burning of fossil fuels. We have completed the first probabilistic projections of global and regional sea level change up to 2100. To avoid rapid rates of sea level rise and to avoid crossing thresholds leading to many metres of sea level rise requires rapid and deep reductions of greenhouse gas emissions. We therefore call on an urgent worldwide action to mitigate emissions and develop plans to adapt to the sea level rise that we can no longer prevent. Thank you.
El Jurado de Economía, Finanzas y Gestión de Empresas, presidido por el profesor Eric Maskin, ha acordado conceder el premio a la profesora Claudia Golding por sus innovadoras contribuciones al análisis histórico del papel de la mujer en la economía, que arroja luz sobre las causas de la desigualdad de género. Su trabajo ha contribuido a comprender la brecha salarial entre hombres y mujeres, combinando series históricas de datos y teoría
historical data series and economic theory.
Members of the Presidency, authorities, distinguished guests, and renowned fellow award winners, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the BBVA Foundation for this great honor. I am most grateful to the members of the jury who selected my contributions as deserving of this award. They are an extraordinary group of scholars. I also thank my amazing co-authors, most notably Lawrence Katz, who is in the audience, with whom I have co-authored much on inequality, education, and technology, as well as on subjects mentioned in the award, including the impact of the birth control pill. I am extremely grateful for the recognition that the BBVA Award gives to the subject on which I have spent much of my career. It is a subject that is both economic and societal. It is one that deeply touches our current lives, and yet it is timeless. It transcends geographic boundaries, language, culture, and religion. It concerns the evolving roles of women in the economy and in society. Women are more than 50% of the population today, yet they have not been 50% of the labor force. They contribute to the economy, yet often in ways that are not fully valued. They have, across history, left the confines of their homes and stepped onto the larger stage. Yet their time is fully valued. Reasons why they entered the broader labor force from some earlier period of time to our current era, and why their labor is still not valued equally to that of men, has occupied my thinking for some time. A host of technological changes have served to narrow various gaps between men and women in their earnings, in their education, in their occupations, and in their labor force participation. These technological advances include ordinary ones in the home, in the factory, in the office, and also in reproduction. But the difficult issues of gender are still with us, and they may always be. Yet we are poised to close some of the most glaring residual gaps in much of the world, including in Spain. Thank you.
El jurado de la categoría de música y ópera, presidido por la directora de orquesta, maestra Joana Carneiro, ha acordado conceder el premio al maestro John Adams por crear una música genuinamente de nuestro tiempo, con una voz única basada en los estándares más elevados de excelencia técnica, que a la vez ha logrado una poderosa conexión con un público amplio a través de una rica paleta de emociones,
through this rich palette of emotions and through his ability to tell stories of our era.
Members of the Presidency, the BBVA Foundation, Selection Committee members, fellow awardees, distinguished guests, and previous laureates. To be acknowledged with this prestigious Frontiers of Knowledge Award for a lifetime of work is a great honor, and even so more knowing that so many of my fellow winners are also from the United States. As an American artist working during this particularly turbulent and divisive time in our country's history, and to have my music recognized and valued from the distance Spain and Europe is especially meaningful. When I was starting out in the 1960s, our concerns as young composers were, in retrospect, somewhat selfish ones. They were all about cultivating a personal style and establishing our individualism at all costs. It was a period when the writing of serious music became an intellectual activity, a willful act of pushing the boundaries of radical experimentation, not only with music's materials, but also with the listener's powers of comprehension. For those of us would-be avant-garde revolutionaries, the idea was to adopt cool, rational methods of composing that would make artistic creation less beholden to the emotions and instead be more a product of rigorous systems of organization, presumably more in sync with modern life. That was the time when 12-tone, serial, and aleatoric methods of composing first appeared. It was also a time when contemporary music became mostly so complex and inaccessible that it all but lost its audience. People who loved the classics, who loved Bach or Schubert or Mahler or even Stravinsky could find neither pleasure nor meaning in the new music, for which for most listeners was an impenetrable black box. I've tried over the course of my creative life to restore the primacy of feeling and emotional connectedness in my music. Especially in my operas, I have sought ways to use music to address the collective themes of our time, whether they be those of national identity and aspiration, or of the deep psychological complexities of our human experience. I'm happy to see that for the younger generation, today's issues of style and individualism have given way to concerns for communication and for using music's powerful emotional and sensory tools to express and embody the essential themes of our time. No composer can work without inspiration, and my inspiration is seated right here in this room with us, my wonderful wife and love of my life, Deborah. I want to acknowledge her for her long love and devotion. Quiero añadir una cosita más.
I would like to say something more. We love this city, and it's one of the marvels of the world. Thank you.
El jurado de la categoría de Humanidades y Ciencias Sociales, presidido por el profesor Scott Soames, ha acordado conceder el premio al profesor Noam Chomsky por sus contribuciones sin parangón al estudio del lenguaje humano, al proponer que las reglas gramaticales de todas las lenguas son generadas por una gramática universal que el cerebro humano posee de manera innata. Chomsky transformó el campo de la lingüística
through this
y explicó el producto cognitivo
the field of linguistics and explained the
Su
cognitive product
revolucionaria
that
teoría
makes
ha
us
abierto
humans as a
nuevas
species.
y
His
fructíferas vías de
theory has
investigación en muy
revolutionized
diversos
everything and has
campos
opened new and
científicos y humanísticos.
very fruitful
Lamentablemente, un
channels
problema de
of
salud
research
sobrevenido en
in
los últimos días
different
ha impedido al
scientific fields
profesor
and
Chomsky
humanistic fields.
viajar a
Unfortunately,
Bilbao,
his
como era
health
su deseo.
has meant that he can't come
Pero ha
to
querido estar
Bilbao.
aquí con nosotros,
But he wants to be
haciéndonos
here
llegar
with us
desde
today,
Arizona
with us
su
this
discurso
evening,
de
and so
aceptación
he's
del Premio
going to
Fronteras del
send
Conocimiento
us from
en
Arizona
Humanidades
his
y Ciencias Sociales.
speech
Un gesto
in
por el que le
acceptance
quedamos muy
of
reconocidos.
this award, and we'd like to say
Hemos
thank
acordado
you for doing
también con
that.
el
We've
profesor
also
Chomsky
agreed
que el
with
presidente
Professor
de la
Chomsky
Fundación, don
that the
Carlos
president
Torres
of the
Vila,
foundation,
le hará
Mr.
entrega
Carlos
personal
Torres
del
Vila,
galardón en
will
Estados
personally
Unidos
give
una
him
vez
this
esté
award
plenamente
in the
recuperado.
US once he's fully
Esta
recovered.
pasada noche, el profesor Chomsky
Last
nos ha hecho
evening,
llegar
Professor
un mensaje
Chomsky
escrito
sent a written message to us, and we're going to read two of the main paragraphs of it. And it says the following: I want to get across to you once again how both myself and my wife Valeria, how upset we are not to be able to come and join you during this event. I know you're going to show some photos of me, and I thought maybe you don't have any of me with Valeria, who's the center of my life and has been always over all these years. So I would just like to send you a few photos of us together. I'm hoping you can show them. It is a pleasure for us to be able to accept this request from Professor Chomsky, and we're now going to listen to his acceptance speech.
I'm not able to be with you personally today. My wife Valeria and I were looking forward to this occasion with great anticipation. A sudden health problem arose, made it impossible. Great disappointment for both of us. Needless to say, it is most gratifying to receive this award, and I would like to thank all of those involved in the decision. It is particularly gratifying as recognition of the achievement of the so-called generative enterprise. At the outset, in the 1950s, it seemed to be an exotic initiative. There was no such field at the time within linguistics, then a small discipline focusing on rather narrow topics. But there was a tradition, completely forgotten, that had posed the challenge addressed by the generative enterprise. Galileo expressed his amazement at the remarkable fact that with a few dozen symbols, humans are somehow able to express infinitely many thoughts and to convey to others the inner workings of our minds. Similar observations motivated Cartesian dualism. Wilhelm von Humboldt regarded language as the formative organ of thought, based on the unique human ability to make infinite use of finite means. A rich tradition sought to penetrate the mystery, but was unable to explain how finite means could yield such infinite expressions of thought. The tradition was swept aside by behaviorist and structuralist currents and forgotten. By mid-20th century, Alan Turing, other great mathematicians, had established the theory of computability on firm grounds, and it was clear how a finite system coded in the brain could address the Galilean challenge, with grammars that use finite means to generate an infinite array of structured expressions that constitute thoughts, and to map them to sensory motor systems, usually sound. By now, languages of vast typological range have been investigated in this manner at a level of depth and scope of inquiry that could not have even been imagined not long ago. The work also revitalized the study of language acquisition and processing and became a core part of the emerging cognitive sciences. Of particular interest is that we can now begin to investigate fundamental properties of language never before recognized, while satisfying the twin conditions of learnability and evolvability. The results that open very exciting prospects for understanding essential features of human intellectual capacities and the basis for human creativity and achievement. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to all our laureates. And we are now going to hand the floor over to Mr. Carlos Torres Vila, the president of the BBVA Foundation and the BBVA Group.
Mr. President, Deputy General of Vizcaya, Mr. Mayor of Bilbao, the representative of the Spanish government, authorities, the chairperson of the Scientific Council, and trustees of the BBVA Foundation, members of the Scientific Committee, laureates, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. It's a great honor for me to be at this 11th edition of the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards, the first event that is taking place in Bilbao, which, as from this year, will become the permanent venue for this award ceremony. Well, after 10 years of existence, the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards have a very significant number of laureates, men and women who, through their scientific and artistic work, have made it possible to extend the boundaries of our knowledge and deal with the complex challenges of our times. And as I said a few months ago here at the Euskalduna Conference Center, at the AGM of the BBVA, the world is now dealing with some very significant challenges of an environmental character as well as of a social character. For instance, things like climate change or the crisis of biodiversity or the sixth extinction, as Gretchen and Georgina point out, or inequality are challenges whose future consequences could be much more severe if we don't do something now, because mankind has never had so many responsibilities like the ones we have right now, because those actions that we implement today can transform our planet forever and can also have a very big influence on future generations. At BBVA, we have taken on board this commitment because we want to make available to everybody the opportunities offered by this new era, and it's something that we extend to our customers, to our workers, and to our shareholders and to other interest groups, but we understand this from the broadest possible sense. In other words, we want to favor the well-being of society. We are fully convinced that the final goal of our work is to help create a much more sustainable horizon so that we can do something about the significant challenges we're facing. And this is not only one of our aspirations, it's also become something that we are working on right now, and to an extent it's a reality. It's something that we have put into practice through diverse initiatives. Firstly, we have the work that we are doing to further knowledge and innovation, where, well, the Foundation obviously plays a very outstanding role. And we also have aid for social inclusion that is carried out by the Foundation in Mexico and other countries, or the microfinance BBVA Foundation in Latin America. And since 2018, we've also furthered the responsible banking principles. We were one of the banks that implemented these principles under the auspices of the United Nations, which means that our strategy has been placed in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and with the Paris Agreement on climate. And this is why we have applied the positive impacts of our activity on nature, and we've reduced negative impacts that are related to our activities. And we work with our customer base to further sustainable practices in all sectors. And this is something that we've reflected in our public commitment as regards 2025, the BBVA commitment as regards sustainable finance, a commitment that tries to move towards a low-carbon economy, and we also want to create more sustainable infrastructures and entrepreneurship. In 2018, we invested 12 billion euros, and our commitment is to reach 100 billion in terms of sustainable funding by the year 2025. We also undertake to minimize our environmental footprint. That is 70% of the power contracted by the group will be renewable by 2025 until we reach 100% of our power consumed in 2030. In other words, in one decade until 2025, we will be reducing our CO2 emissions by 68%. But without a doubt, one of the essential examples of our commitment is obviously related to these Frontiers of Knowledge Awards of the Fundación. When we created these awards, as the chairperson said more than 10 years ago, our objective, our goal, was to make these researchers as visible as possible, these people that are extending these boundaries. Science and culture are global activities without any kind of frontiers that have the potential of being beneficial for all of us. And through the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards, we've been able to make much more visible the decisive role that is played by research and by creation in the way we interpret the world. And this has also made it possible to transform these contributions and the trajectories of some of the best researchers and creators of our time into an inspiration for future scientists and artists. And this could also be served as a guide. This can serve as a guide for decision making. And in the first decade, these awards had among the laureates people that have extended our knowledge in relation to the origin of the galaxies and also the atomic scale and how the brain works. Among the laureates, we have people that have created new vaccines, or the creators of the internet, or artificial intelligence, and there are people that have observed nature, and people that have witnessed changes in nature and which have raised the alarm. And there are also very creative musicians that serve as an inspiration and awaken our emotions. And these awards have also made it possible to prove that organizations like BBVA have the responsibility of transforming the struggle for sustainability into one of the signs of our identity. The BBVA Foundation has been supporting this commitment towards research. And these awards, the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards, are the only global awards that have underscored research actions that place this at the same level with biology and with conservation. And this is also connected to a number of other basic disciplines. And at this 10th edition, we have Gretchen Caradel and Georgina Mays, two visionaries in terms of policies that are fighting against the disciplines of species in the field of conservation ecology, whereas in climate change, the laureates, as you've seen, are the three experts on the impacts that are being produced by climate change as regards the level of the sea. Castanau, John Church and Jonathan Gregory. But when we talk about sustainability, we must also talk about social problems like the gender gap and diversity, because at the BBVA we are more and more aware of how important it is to destroy this gap, and we are actively working to achieve this. So therefore, it's a great privilege to have Claudia Godin with us tonight, who's dedicated her career to try to achieve gender equality as the laureate in this category of economy, finance and company management. And then also this year, we have a new category, as you know, that is focused on humanities and social sciences, because in the days of the social media and where everything is immediate, and also where there's a lack of information, we need to have a greater dialogue and a greater interaction between the humanistic and the scientific and social disciplines, and also with the basic sciences and with technology. We believe that we need to have leadership that is based on science, and we need to transfer knowledge into the way we think and act as citizens. But for this knowledge to have an influence on our attitudes and policies, and for it to be relevant for our public life, it is essential for our information, the information that reaches society, would be absolutely true and that it gained a much bigger weight. And this reflection has meant that for the first time in the case of these awards, we have included this new category, and we have the honor to have an exceptional thinker like Noam Chomsky, who has been the first recipient of this new award of the Frontiers of Knowledge. It's a shame that he can't be with us here tonight, and we only hope that he will recover very soon. His message from Arizona has made us feel all very emotional, and as the Master of Ceremonies has said, I hope that I'll be able to travel there so that I can hand the diploma in person and recognize all the work he's done. But, well, mention has to be made of the physics, Charles Kane and Eugene Many, who've discovered new materials, and Jeffrey Gordon, an expert in microbiology, and Ivan Sutherland, who's invented new graphic interfaces between computers and humans, and the father of virtual reality. And finally, John Adams, the creator of excellent musical compositions, as we had the opportunity of seeing last night during the concert. So these 12 award winners, all of them come from many different academic institutions and from Europe, the United States, Australia, that symbolize the excellence and creativity in the fields of science and the arts. Their contributions have provided us with powerful conceptual tools, and this makes us much better. And their example stimulates us to go even further to cope with these challenges of this very exciting period in the 21st century. Congratulations to all of them, to you, to your friends, to your families, and to the research centres too. And the other major new development, as I pointed out before, in the case of our awards, has to do with the selection of Bilbao as the permanent venue, because this city represents the roots of the BBVA group, and they share with us their vocation to be very open-minded. The Banco de Bilbao, which was the origin of the BBVA, was established in the year 1857. It was more than 150 years ago, in a period of democratic growth and economic and social growth with the river in Bilbao. And it was a period that was influenced by the new industrial economy that was growing thanks to the steel works, to the mines, and to the railway infrastructures. So all of these activities gave rise to Spain's most solid banking system in a city that in the early 20th century already had a very rich fabric of intellectuals, architects, engineers, etc., etc. So 150 years later, this place has reinvented itself, as the mayor said, and has transformed knowledge in its agent for transformation. So, well, according to the Index of Innovation that was drawn up 2 years ago by the Valencia Institute of Economic Research and by the BBVA Foundation, the Basque region is a leader in terms of qualified human resources, research systems, institutional support for research and development, employment connected to intensive scientific activities, and highly technological sectors. And these indices wouldn't have been possible without the support of an open-minded citizenry. So therefore, there's no doubt that Bilbao is the suitable framework for this awards-giving ceremony. So not only will we have the concert and the awards-giving ceremony every year here, but we'll also carry out new activities associated with these awards. And with, for instance, we have the Global Forum on Sustainability in collaboration with the summer courses of the University of the Basque Country that will be kicking off this very year. I would also like to thank the members of the jury for their commitment and for their search for excellence, because your work, the work that has been done by these expert committees, people from the artistic and scientific community, has been essential to achieve this level of prestige. And in only 10 years, 7 of our laureates have been recognized by a Nobel Prize. And of course, I would also like to express my gratitude to the Council of Scientific Research, because they've been collaborating with us for more than 10 years in the pre-assessment of all the nominations and in the composition of the expert committees. Professor Rosa Menendez, please convey our thanks to the staff of your organization. And I would also like to thank the wonderful support support and warmth of the Basque institutions and the Basque authorities, because they have made it very easy for Bilbao to become the permanent venue for these awards. So, dear President and dear Mayor, and I would like to express my personal and institutional gratitude for your support. We are delighted to be here tonight, and it's wonderful to see that the artistic and research community and the educational community are represented in this magnificent Euskalduna building, because we have the directors of the technology centers as well as representatives from leading universities and lots of researchers here tonight, with whom we hope that we will strengthen our ties. Many thanks too for your collaboration as regards reaching out to other reference institutions with which we have some very special links, the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum, for instance, and the Museum of Fine Arts, and also the Opera Company. I would also like to congratulate Maestro Trevino and the Symphony Orchestra of Euskadi for the wonderful concert they gave. And apart from listening to Symphony No. 1 by Gustav Mahler, we also enjoyed one of John Adams' creations, one of the leading composers on both sides of the Atlantic. And we would also like to express our gratitude to all you people that have come here tonight. All of you people that were here last night and are present here tonight at the Euskalduna Conference Center. It's wonderful to have you here to support our laureates. And in Bilbao, this is where the BBVA was born. And as from today, every year, we will hold this event with you, and we'll be celebrating the work done by extraordinary people that have dared go beyond the spheres of the sciences and the arts. And finally, I would like to speak to the laureates in English to express my gratitude.
I would like to conclude congratulating each and every one of our exceptional laureates and thanking them for their admirable contributions. You and your family should be extremely proud, as we are at the BBVA Foundation. Your work and your example encourage us to lift our standards and our aspirations. Welcome to the family of those awarded the Frontiers Prize. Eta amaitzen dut, eskerrak emanez bihotz-bihotzez gaur hemen zaudeten guztioi. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias a todos.
And thank you very much to you all.
Many thanks, Mr. President. And to close this ceremony of the 11th BBVA Foundation's Frontiers of Knowledge Awards ceremony, we have the honor of the President of the Basque Country, the Lehendakari, Mr. Inigo Urkullu. Please do come up to take the stage.
Herri agintari eta herri ordezkariok guztiok.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, the President of the BBVA Foundation, the President of the CSIC, authorities, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Eskerrik asko eta zorionak. Be welcome to Euskadi Basque Country, an ancient country in love with modernity.
Truly, I should first like to thank the BBVA Foundation for having chosen Bilbao and Vizcaya and the Basque Country for these awards, because here we have now become a benchmark in surness. These prizes in Frontiers of Knowledge from the BBVA Foundation have turned us into a
country that is investing in science and culture and knowledge. It is the nexus of a country that has known how to reconvert itself, how to transform itself. It's maintained its industrial and port tradition. It's updated its industry, and it's dealt with the challenge posed by advanced services. Our future is open to knowledge through innovation and through technology too. And people, researchers and scholars and intellectuals and environmentalists and economists, people that love music, that love culture all over the world, have this awards-giving ceremony as one of the most important events of the year. And I would like to express my recognition to the organizers and also to those that form part of the juries. And congratulations too to the people that have been recognized by this award.
Thanks to your work that we hear. It's your work that will build the future of our country. The Basque Country is very much interested in your work, supports society, and thinks of the future of humankind. And today we've seen that through those prizes. We need to work together, all of us. We need to think of the future. Culture affects us all. Science affects us all.
And the Basque Country has a reflection that has a phrase that represents our collaboration, which is called Auzonala. And today we are defending this model of shared work. And with this awards-giving ceremony, I think that we strengthen the value that culture and knowledge have as a common good. And we're also strengthening the less well-known meaning of the term frontier or frontiers, because nowadays it's being used as a division of mistrust. And these prizes use the term frontiers as a horizon, as a space where we can share and where we can enrich our knowledge and our experience. It offers an opportunity so that we can grow in terms of well-being and social justice. We are a small country. We are open to the world, and our future is global. Because tonight I would like to make an appeal, and I would like to say that this is an encounter where we have to search for new opportunities.
And to finalize, we all need to work together. We all need to look towards the future. We need to respect the environment. Here in the Basque Country and in the rest of the world. So we need to start working on that, to make the world a better place. And that's the path that we need to follow.
So we have to be hospitable, we have to have respect for the word given, we have to work hard, we have to be honest. And these are the values of a people that has known what to do in the world and has achieved some major goals. And these are values that are created by people, by institutions, by companies and associations too. And all together we have to make what we represent much more robust. This is an ancient people that loves the avant-garde. So we can make even further progress along this collective path. And thanks to the BBVA Foundation and thanks to these events, Frontiers of the Knowledge, we can achieve this. And also thanks to the laureates. And also, well, thanks for lighting the way, thanks for accompanying us, and thanks for encouraging us along this plan towards knowledge, science and culture. Thank you very much.
En nombre de la Fundación BBVA y del
On behalf of the BBVA Foundation and the CSIC, we should like to thank all of you for having taken part in this ceremony, a ceremony of celebration, for celebration of science and culture. This is a milestone in the history of these awards, because from this year onwards they will always be held in Bilbao. We should like to recognize the Basque institutions, that is, the Mayor of Bilbao, the Lehendakari of the Basque Country, and the province of Vizcaya. And we should also like to say thanks to all the men and women, the experts in research, in medicine, in cultural creation, musical creation. We should like to thank the media and other institutions, and of course the rectors and governing teams of some of the best universities here that have expressly come to Bilbao for this event. I should like to ask all the people who are here tonight just to sit tight for a few minutes whilst the presidency and the authorities, the laureates and the committees leave the stage, and I ask you to applaud them in the meantime. After this event, some nibbles and a few drinks will be served. You will be able to congratulate the laureates, and we hope to see you all back here next year in June, back here, same place, same time. Thank you so much.